Well, greetings, disciple groups. It's good to be with you for another week. In fact, this is our last week in the Sermon on the Mount, and our last video, at least, of 2020. So it's nice to know 2021 is on the horizon, but we're going to look at Matthew chapter 7 today and read actually most of the chapter. And so with that, I want you to get started and read Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. And I know this passage is going to stir up some conversation, so you'll give some time to it. Talk this passage through together. We'll come back for a little teaching and a question. Now, it's my experience that this passage tends to stir up a lot of conversation in us, and for good reason. Our temptation when we read this is to immediately begin to justify our actions. And we say, well, oh, no, I'm just judging between right and wrong. And so I want us first to kind of resist that temptation. And if we fall into that trap already, just make some room to hear what Jesus is saying here. I want to respond to that because I hear that every time we come to this passage. We biblically are called to judge between what is right and what is wrong. But if we're being honest with ourselves, there are times we cross that line. We move from judging between what is right and what is wrong to judging and condemning. We are called to discern, yes. We are not called to judge and condemn. You know, the reality is part of the human condition is having this kind of standard or ideal that we hold people to. And when they fall short of that, that's when we begin to heap judgment upon them. And this is what Jesus speaks to here. And he does something kind of masterful. Jesus, who is the right judge, says this to us in this passage. He says that he will hold us to the same standard we hold others to. Jesus says, the standard that you build and you hold others to, I'm going to take that same pattern and I'm going to judge you according to how you judge other people. Now, if that doesn't scare you a little bit, I don't know that you're really paying attention. There's a song that stands out to me. It comes from Derek Webb, who's a Christian musician, and it's called I Repent. And here's a couple lines from this. He says, I repent from judging by a law that even I can't keep, of wearing righteousness like a disguise to see through the planks in my own eyes. I really appreciate his honesty there. You know, Jesus paints a rather absurd picture using hyperbole, as he does throughout the Sermon on the Mount, of us kind of as surgeons performing this really delicate surgery of removing a speck from someone's eye while we have a plank obstructing our view. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think of that, but that's what we do. And Jesus uses this, I think, in a way to simply say, look, you need to take care of your own mess before you ever think about removing the speck from your brother or sister's eye. And so my question for you is this. I wonder what you need to hear Jesus saying to you out of this passage. And what are you going to do about it? I think we all wrestle with judgment in this way, with being overly critical of other people while giving ourselves mercy upon mercy for the things that we do. What do you need to hear Jesus saying to you out of this passage? What are you going to do with it? Stop the video and have some conversation. So we come back, we're looking here at Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 through 27. So I want you to go ahead and stop the video and have some conversation around these. These also tend to inspire some conversation. So give your time to this and we'll come back. All right, so this here is Jesus's closing statement on the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus' primary point in these passages is to say to us that there are decisions we make that determine the trajectory of our life, both earthly and eternal. There are decisions we make that determine the trajectory of our lives. And so Jesus highlights those critical decisions so that we who choose to listen to him won't miss them, but we understand the gravity of these decisions. I'm going to go through them real quickly, and I want you to listen to them because I'm going to ask you a question about them later. In verses 13 and 14, Jesus says this: you choose your path. There are two paths in this world available to us. One of them is broad because there are no boundaries to it, and it just kind of drifts in the direction of the world, but it's destined for ruin. The other path is narrow, not because Jesus doesn't want people to follow it. It's narrow because it's been clearly defined for us, and you have to be intentional about taking it. Verses 15 through 20, Jesus says, you choose who you listen to. You choose who you give authority to speak into your life. Whether or not it's the false prophets who lead you astray or the true prophets that lead you toward life. In case you need to know which one it is, Jesus tells you how to spot them. He says, don't listen to them. Look for the fruit. Before you listen, look for the fruit. That's how you'll know the difference between the false and the true prophets. The third decision in verses 21 through 23 is you choose which kind of disciple you'll be. Will you be the kind of disciple like we've seen throughout the Sermon on the Mount, who only follows Jesus with their lips, or whose devotion is surface level, or even maybe ulterior motives as to why they follow? Or will you be the kind of disciple that knows Jesus as Lord and follows him as such, who is yielded to the lordship of Christ? And the last decision in verses 24 through 27 is you choose which foundation you'll build your life on. Will it be the teachings of the world which shift like the sand? Or will it be the timeless teachings of Christ? This way of life that he has laid out before us, that if we choose to build our lives upon, to make a foundation for everything that we do, will prop up our lives both here and in our eternal existence. These are the decisions that are before you and me that determine the trajectory of our life. And so my final question to you is this: I wonder which of those decisions stands out to you today. Did one of them stand out as more significant than the others to you? And if one did, then why do you think you needed to hear that one today? After a conversation, I want you to have some prayer over each other and pray you're blessed as we seek to continue to follow Christ in all we do. Thank you for joining us today.